How much peace have you lost trying to prove a point? In a world obsessed with being heard, there's an underrated superpower: silence. Not the silence of suppression, but the silence of sovereignty. What if the strongest move isn't to react, but to not need to? What if letting go of arguments is the beginning of real freedom? In this episode, we dive into the Buddhist art of ignoring wisely, a practice that protects your energy, sharpens your clarity, and grants you emotional immunity in a chaotic world. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let's talk about the power of ignoring, not out of apathy, but out of awakened self-mastery. Because sometimes, walking away is the most enlightened thing you can do. How many times have you left an argument feeling like you won, only to realize, hours later, that your energy had been stolen, your peace shattered, your heart still replaying what was said? In this world where everyone is desperate to be heard, seen, validated, the quickest way to lose yourself is to keep answering every call to battle. You're not a warrior they want you to be. You're a flame they want to blow on. But what if you didn't burn for them? From the moment we're old enough to speak, we're taught to respond. Talk back. Defend your name. Set the record straight. But Buddhism whispers a different truth. Not every truth needs to be spoken. Not every fire needs to be put out. Some things die on their own if you simply don't give them air. And yet the modern mind is addicted to reaction. Someone comments, you reply. Someone attacks, you defend. Someone gossips, you investigate. It's a loop. And what is a loop if not a prison? Now imagine this. You're walking through a quiet forest. Suddenly a bird screeches overhead. Do you scream back at it? No, you let it pass. Its noise doesn't belong to you. Why then in life do we answer every insult, every slight, every invitation to drama, as if it were a moral obligation? Because we are trained subtly, constantly, to conflate silence with weakness. But silence in the Dharma is not surrender. It's strategy. It's self-mastery. It's the sword you never draw because you've already won. When you react without pause, you are not choosing. You are being chosen. By your triggers, by your fears, by your need to be right. And so you become predictable, manipulable. Your peace, the most sacred ground you have, becomes public property. The Buddha once said, "You will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger." Not because anger is wrong, but because it's a fire that burns the one who holds it. And every time you react, even righteously, that flame grows within you. Let's go deeper. Imagine someone hurls a rock at your window. Do you chase them, stone for stone, until you've left your own house unguarded? Or do you repair the window, secure your peace, and let the fool wander off alone? This is the metaphor for life. People will throw things, opinions, insults, bad faith. That's not your choice. Your choice is whether to pick those things up and carry them. And here's the secret. Reaction is not instinct, it's habit. And like all habits, it can be unlearned. First through awareness, then through repetition, then through liberation. There's a kind of power that only comes when you don't take the bait, when you don't correct the lie, when you don't clap back. A power that is so silent, it terrifies people. Because they can't move you. They can't access you. They can't win, because you're not even playing. And here's the most ironic part. When you stop trying to prove yourself right, people begin to listen. When you stop defending your truth, your presence speaks louder than your words ever could. That's the paradox. The less you respond, the more powerful your energy becomes, because you are no longer broadcasting weakness disguised as righteousness. You are simply there, grounded, untouchable, like a mountain watching clouds argue. So next time someone throws a dart, ask yourself, do I want to bleed for this? Or can I just step aside and let the dart fall? The modern world will try to guilt you into engagement. If you don't respond, it means you agree. No, it means you're free. It means you have better things to do than get dragged into someone else's storm. There is a difference between being passive and being above it, between being silent and being sovereign. The first is avoidance. The second is wisdom. And wisdom, my friend, doesn't shout. It doesn't defend. It simply is. This is why the Buddha sat under a tree and smiled while Mara, the tempter, the destroyer, threw every illusion he had. He didn't fight Mara. He didn't preach to him. He didn't argue. He just watched. And in the stillness of that watching, Mara's power dissolved. Because that's the secret they don't teach you. Most of the time you don't win by fighting. You win by not reacting at all. Let's keep going. The ego won't like what comes next. But the soul is ready. There's a hunger inside the modern heart, and it's louder than ambition, deeper than desire. It's the need to be understood, to be seen exactly as we are, and to have someone say, "Yes, I get you." But here's the Dharma bomb. You will never be fully understood. Not by your partner, not by your parents, not even by yourself. And the pain of that truth is what keeps you arguing. Why do we explain ourselves endlessly to people who have already decided not to listen? Why do we send essays to those who only skim? Why do we debate with strangers online who only want to win, not grow? Because the ego is fragile. It's terrified of being misrepresented, misunderstood, or dismissed. And so it turns every disagreement into a courtroom, every opinion into a verdict, and every silence into an accusation. But let's be honest, have you ever truly changed your mind in the middle of an argument? Or were you just waiting for your turn to talk? We say we want dialogue, but often what we want is domination. We want the other person to surrender, to drop their sword, admit defeat, and declare, "You were right all along." And when they don't, when they push back, we escalate. Because now it's not just about the topic, it's about me. But what if the need to be understood is just another craving? Another attachment dressed up as righteousness? Buddhism teaches that suffering arises not from what happens, but from our grasping at how we want things to be. And the craving to be understood is one of the subtlest forms of grasping, because it hides under noble robes. It says, "I just want to connect. I just want harmony." But underneath, it wants control. You think you're speaking from the heart, but often you're speaking from a wound that says, "If they don't understand me, then I don't exist." Pause here. Let that sink in. What if the need to be understood is just your inner child begging to feel real? So you repeat yourself, you over-explain, you get louder, you write long messages, you rehearse arguments in your head. And yet, the more you try to be understood, the less understood you feel. Because understanding cannot be forced, it cannot be extracted. It must be offered freely. And if someone isn't offering it, no amount of explaining will make them. This is why silence is sacred. Not because you're giving up, but because you're waking up. You're seeing that your peace does not depend on someone else's comprehension. You're realizing that the need to be understood is optional. You are not a software that needs to be decoded. You are not a theory that needs to be proven. You are not a slogan waiting for applause. You're a being, changing, expanding, contradicting yourself, and that is your business, not theirs. Now let's bring this closer to home. Think about the last argument you had with someone you love. Was it really about the dishes, the tone, the timing? Or was it about feeling unseen? Was it about the deeper cry underneath the words, "Why don't you get me?" This is where compassion enters. Not for them, for yourself. The part of you that aches to be mirrored, to be named, to be felt. But here's the liberation. You don't need to be understood to be whole. You don't need agreement to feel valid. You don't need applause to be real. The Buddha was misunderstood. He walked away from his kingdom, left his family, starved himself to the edge of death, and when he found the middle way, people still said, "You've lost your mind." But he didn't fight back. He taught. He walked. He let those who resonated come near, and those who didn't drift away. That's your model. When you stop explaining yourself to people who aren't asking real questions, you get your life back. You reclaim the energy that was wasted on trying to be liked, trying to be right, trying to be got. Let people misunderstand you. Let them have their version. Let them whisper. None of it belongs to you. Because the truth is, even if you win the argument, you lose your peace. And what's the point of being right if you feel wrong inside? So let them say what they will. You just keep walking, keep glowing, keep growing. Because real understanding doesn't come from arguments. It comes from silence, stillness. And the rare soul who says, "I see you," without you having to explain a thing. There's a moment every warrior faces, not on the battlefield, but inside the heart, when they realize that the enemy is not out there, but in here. The grasping, the needing, the exhausting desire to prove something to someone. And here's where the Dharma hits hard. What you think is strength may actually be fear in disguise. Because the truth is, most people aren't fighting because they're strong. They're fighting because they're scared of what will happen if they stop. If I let go, will I be walked on? If I forgive, will they hurt me again? If I stay silent, will I disappear? To the ego, letting go feels like dying. It confuses surrender with weakness. But Buddhism teaches the opposite. Surrender is strength. It's not submission to the world, it's refusal to be ruled by it. Think of a clenched fist, tense, ready. It looks powerful, but it's brittle, unyielding, prone to shatter. Now think of an open hand, relaxed, exposed. It seems vulnerable, but it can hold anything, or let anything pass through. Which one do you think is freer? We're taught from a young age to clench, to grip tightly to our beliefs, our reputation, our need to win. And so we build walls made of words and armor made of opinions. But what happens when that armor rusts? What happens when carrying it only makes us tired? You start to notice something. The strongest people in the room are often the quietest. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they have nothing to prove. That's what letting go really is. Not abandonment, not carelessness, but a radical act of faith. A decision to stop playing a game where the prize is stress and the cost is your peace. But let's get real, it's not easy. Letting go of a grudge that feels like injustice, letting go of being right that feels like betrayal, letting go of a toxic relationship that feels like loneliness. And yet, what hurts more in the long run? Releasing what weighs you down or carrying it forever. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha says, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. We all nod when we hear that, but then someone insults us and we grip the coal tighter. Because we confuse pain with meaning. We think suffering proves we care. But what if the deepest love looks like release? What if the most compassionate thing you can do for yourself and for others is let go? Let's make this practical. You don't have to let go all at once. You don't have to renounce the world or become a monk on a mountain. But you can practice. You can pause before reacting. You can ask, is this worth my peace? And if the answer is no, drop it. You can choose silence over sarcasm. You can choose walking away over winning. You can choose breathing over breaking down. And every time you do, something beautiful happens. The world loses a little bit of power over you. You become sovereign, not in control of everything, but no longer controlled by anything. This doesn't mean you'll stop feeling. No, you'll feel more deeply, because your emotions won't be filtered through the noise of needing to be right. You'll love more fiercely, because your love won't come with contracts or conditions. You'll live more fully, because you're no longer wasting energy holding on to what was never yours. Here's the twist. What feels like loss at first becomes gain. You lose the need to argue and gain your calm. You lose the obsession with outcomes and gain presence. You lose 100 small battles and gain your soul back. Letting go is not weakness. It is the rarest form of inner strength. The kind that doesn't shout or posture, but simply breathes and moves on. So next time you feel the urge to clench, to fight, to explain, to prove, try something different. Open your hands, loosen your jaw, lower your voice, and walk away without flinching. Because if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. There's a thief living inside you. Not one that steals your wallet or your sleep, but one that robs you of peace every single day. Its name, ego. And its favorite addiction, reacting. It doesn't care about truth. It doesn't care about clarity. It just wants to win. And in its twisted logic, every argument is a battlefield, every disagreement a threat, every silence a loss. The ego thrives on friction. It feeds on conflict. When someone disagrees with you, it panics, not because you're wrong, but because its identity is being questioned. The ego's survival depends on the illusion that I am right and they are wrong. But truth doesn't live in absolutes. Truth lives in awareness. You see, the ego wants a reaction because it confuses being loud with being strong. But real strength, that's quiet. It watches instead of rushing. It breathes instead of barking. It responds instead of exploding. Think of a mirror. Say whatever you want to it. Curse it, praise it, plead with it. It just reflects. That's the awakened mind. It sees what's happening, but it doesn't get hooked. Now compare that with a sponge. Everything thrown at it, anger, praise, fear, judgment. It absorbs. That's the egoic mind. Overstimulated, reactive, exhausted. And here's the trap. Every time you react to a comment, a criticism, a petty jab, you're feeding the ego's need for survival. You're saying, this outside thing has the power to control my inside state. Buddhism flips the script. It says, stop giving the keys to your kingdom to strangers. It says because someone throws fire doesn't mean you need to burn. It says your silence is not their victory. It's your liberation. Let's talk about the dopamine loop. Every time you fire back in an argument, your brain releases a hit of satisfaction. You feel powerful for a second. You got the last word. You won. But it's a high with a hangover. Because later, your heart is heavy. Your thoughts replay the conversation. Your energy's drained. You're not free. You're in withdrawal. Reaction is intoxicating, but calmness is clarity. The ego hates stillness. It drowns in silence. That's why when you choose not to react, it screams, don't let them get away with it. Say something. Do something. But you don't have to obey. You are not your ego. You are the watcher. The one who sees the urge and says, not today. This is where mindfulness becomes a weapon. Not a soft, fluffy one, but a blade that cuts through illusion. When you pause just for one breath, you create space. Space to choose your response. Space to say, I see this pain. I see this attack, but I don't have to make it mine. Most people think they need to react to protect their dignity, but dignity is not in your words. Dignity is in your composure. You don't prove self-worth by dominating others. You reveal it by not needing to. So when someone tries to pull you into their storm, pause, not to plot your comeback, but to check your alignment. Not, how do I win this, but who do I become if I join this? And if the answer is someone small, someone stressed, someone afraid, walk away. Because here's the real flex. Inner stillness in the face of chaos. The storm is raging, but you're unmoved. The noise is deafening, but you're listening only to your breath. Buddhist practice isn't about perfection. It's not about always being zen or calm or untouchable. It's about recognizing the game and choosing not to play. Every time you don't react, you train your nervous system to trust stillness. Every time you stay quiet when your ego wants to scream, you teach your soul to breathe. Every time you observe instead of engage, you become more yourself and less the puppet of the world's nonsense. And the more you practice this, the more you'll notice. Some people will stop trying to provoke you. Why? Because they'll see it doesn't work anymore. The hooks don't land, the buttons don't push. You're no longer snackable. You've become invisible to their drama. Now that's power. So the next time someone throws shade or mocks or criticizes, try this. Don't react, don't absorb, don't defend. Just see them, see their pain, see your own trigger. Then let it pass, like wind over water, like thunder that doesn't stay. Because silence isn't weakness, it's strategy, it's sovereignty, it's sacred. If you're ready to take that power back, if you're done reacting, done explaining, done bleeding your peace for people who don't even know your soul, then let's keep going. Stillness is not the absence of noise, it is the refusal to be moved by it. By now you've walked through the fire, the ego's need for control, the addiction to being right, the trap of reaction. But what waits beyond that fire isn't emptiness. It's a presence so full, so calm, it terrifies everything that once ruled you. This is the unshakable mind. Not a stone-cold, emotionless void, but a warm, grounded awareness that says, I choose where my attention goes. I decide what deserves my energy. I don't owe my peace to anyone. Most people live like leaves in the wind, blown left and right by every opinion, every criticism, every external change. But you're learning to be the tree. Think of it. When was the last time someone's words ruined your entire day? A text, a look, a comment on a screen. It got in your head, tightened your chest, hijacked your nervous system. You spent hours spiraling over something that didn't even belong to you. This is what happens when your peace is up for sale, but now you're reclaiming it. The unshakable mind is not born. It is forged through stillness, through discomfort, through the courageous act of watching your triggers without feeding them. Buddhism doesn't promise you a life without chaos. It offers you the tools to stop being owned by it. The storm outside can rage, but the storm inside? That's yours to calm. Here's how. 1. Train your attention. Every time you focus on your breath instead of your thoughts, you sharpen your mind. You say, I am here, not wherever this anxiety wants to take me. Attention is your most valuable currency. Spend it wisely. 2. Rehearse letting go. Not everything deserves a response. Not everyone deserves a seat at your inner table. When you feel the pull to explain yourself, to defend, to react, breathe. Feel the urge. Then let it float past like a cloud. You'll find it dissolves faster than you expected. 3. Choose your environment. You can't always control your surroundings, but you can choose what you consume, what conversations you enter, what energies you invite. A garden grows best when it's not choked by weeds. 4. Let stillness become your baseline. This is the paradox. The more you sit in silence, the more you speak with clarity. The more you stop proving yourself, the more powerful your presence becomes. People start feeling you, not because you say more, but because you radiate less noise. An unshakable mind doesn't come from isolation. It comes from integration. You've seen what reaction costs. You've tasted the sweetness of silence. Now it's time to embody it. Not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. When someone lashes out, stay grounded. When your buttons are pushed, watch your breath. When your name is dragged, smile like the Buddha. Let the dirt fall off your robes. This is how you become untouchable. Not because you're armored, but because you're transparent. There's nothing to defend, no ego to inflate, no script to recite. You walk through the world like water, soft but unstoppable, clear but deep, reflective but never reactive. And as this becomes your default, not just a practice but a way of being, you begin to touch something sacred. Not in the sky, not in scriptures, but right here, in the silence between your reactions. That is the seat of peace. That is where the mind rests, not shaken, not stirred, unbothered, undisturbed, unbreakable. And now, breathe. Let everything we've explored settle like dust in still air. You don't need to remember every teaching. Just one is enough if you live it fully. Maybe it's this: peace is not something you find. It's something you stop giving away. The next time someone throws words like arrows, offer them the silence of a mountain. The next time chaos knocks, greet it like an old friend, curious but not moved. Remember, true power isn't loud, it's quiet. It sits in the center of your being, untouched by approval, undisturbed by rejection. So go gently but firmly, say less, observe more, and guard your attention like it's sacred, because it is. Thank you for walking this path with me. Until next time, keep your peace close and your reactions distant.